Welcome back to the Lead with Courage podcast. We are so thrilled to be sharing this episode today. A little bit of a different vibe because today we are sharing the microphones with a very special friend of ours who we are collaborating with on her program this year called Goddess in the Boardroom. So a huge welcome to the one and only Rachel O'Brien and Mr. Andy Canning.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me too on your podcast.
Thanks for joining us on the podcast. We wanted to start a new tradition that links the different episodes together. And previously we had a recording with Matt Craddock and Kirsty Rourke for the CEO Sleep Out episode. And Matt's question was, what do you want to be known for? And Kirsty's question is, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received? So over to you, Rach. You can choose one of the two. And we're going to throw you straight to the hot seat, answering one of the questions from our previous guests.
Well, I'm going to answer them both, if that's okay. What I'd like to be known for is being kind. And what the best piece of advice that anyone ever gave me, I mean, there's so many pieces of advice you get in a lifetime, but one that really comes to my mind is, when in doubt, do nothing.
Yes.
And that's served me really well, because I think a lot of the time you hear the opposite: when in doubt, just do something, and inevitably that goes pear-shaped. So waiting and leaving space for the unknown has been a really valuable piece of advice.
I think it's an interesting one though, isn't it, between, it's quite often there's sort of like being proactive and making decisions and then always needing to move forward, that sometimes it's tricky to kind of hold the space or hit pause and then sort of wait for clarity attached to things as opposed to forcing the issue.
Yes, well, I think, yes, you're right. And it's a bit counterintuitive, really, because we're wanting to make momentum most of the time. So leaving space, I think, for most people, certainly for me, often feels really uncomfortable because I just want to do something. But if I don't know the answer, then why just act? Why just do any old thing?
Thank you. Late last year, you and I sat down and talked about what was next with Goddess in the Boardroom, and the last Goddess program was run in 2021 where I was a participant.
Yep. I
have said to many people, and I almost need some new language around this because it just sounds a little bit too, you've got this, go girl, I've got you kind of vibes, that it was a life-changing experience for me being on the Goddess in the Boardroom. And now I have the honour of working with you on this program for the 2024 cohort. So we wanted to just share with our community and listeners around what is Goddess, what's it all about, what it means, what it doesn't mean, and whether or not people are going to be part of that. Maybe they're a warrior, maybe they're just a listener, but hopefully to inspire some thought as well as sharing some information about the program. So does that sound okay to you?
Sounds great. Love to talk about that.
Beautiful. So, Rach, can you please share with us, what is Goddess in the Boardroom? Full stop.
Well, I probably have to go back to the origin to explain that. And I'll sort of rewind back to 2010, and your listeners, if they listen to my first episode, would maybe remember that I'd had a very successful career in the corporate world and reached the, heights of a career that beyond my wildest dreams. And at that almost same moment, I got a very serious health diagnosis, and that sent me off on a completely different path. And the really big thing that happened for me with that wake-up call was I started asking a lot of questions. I started becoming a lot more curious about where I was headed and what I was doing in my life and what I wanted to achieve in my life. And there were two sort of big things happening for me. There were probably three really big things happening for me at that time. So the first thing that was happening was I was mentoring female and male senior executives, and I got a very different perspective from mentoring people outside of the corporate world. And I started to see and become more attuned to the challenges that people were facing. And I really noticed that for the women particularly, they were incredibly, a lot more insecure than I would have ever realised about their place in the hierarchy and the value that they add to organisations and to, you know, everywhere in their world. And that was quite eye-opening for me. And the second thing that was happening was that I was actually starting to, because I'd finished up my career, I was starting to venture into the world of boards, and I'd found myself on a couple of boards, and I was having that feeling of, what am I doing here? I'm not good enough. I don't have the skills that are needed here. It's, you know, it was mostly men on these boards I was on, and they were either lawyers or accountants and had a completely different skill set to me. So I was really questioning myself, and it just became so apparent to me that we needed to change this narrative, that women needed to understand, and that I needed to understand, that I added an enormous amount of value with my skills that were different to a lot of the other skills that may be more masculine in nature. So the third thing that was going on that plays into this story was that I was also at that time working with a mentor who was teaching me about feminine energy and really re-engaging in my feminine energy. So it was like these three things sort of all came together and inspired this, you know, this I'm learning so much, I'm changing so much, I'm getting a completely different experience. How do I share this with other women? So that's sort of the genesis story of Goddess in the Boardroom. What is it is, I mean, that's also a big question and probably hard to explain in one podcast, but it's a leadership program for women to really learn about themselves. That's at the highest, that's sort of the briefest way I can say it. And it's about really stripping away all of the ways in which we limit ourselves and hold ourselves back from our highest power, doing whatever it is that we want to do in life. And so we have this incredible community of women that come together and support one another, but also hold a mirror up to one another so that we can really learn to be the best version of ourselves. So yeah, it's a program, but it's not, you know, as you know, and you can speak to this probably better than me because I'm probably a bit, what is it when you're so familiar with something, you're familiar with it too, but as a participant, it's not like, I don't think it's like any other leadership program you might ever do.
No, not at all. And it's funny, obviously at Luminate we're running leadership programs and workshops all the time that we're proud of, and I like the structure of them, and they yield great impact and results. This though is so different. It is so incredibly different. Like there's not a single PowerPoint slide. There's no sitting in a traditional learning kind of style that maybe people think about with programs. There's no prescribed learning as such. Like there are still learning outcomes and there's a syllabus and a framework to the program.
Yeah.
But there's not and then we say this facilitator guide, say what we would have and need to in the nature of some of the programs we do. Okay, we've got to break at this time, and from 10:30 to 11:30 we're going to talk about this topic at this module. That is not what the Goddess in the Boardroom program looks like, right?
No, definitely not. And it's, I guess you could sum it up in this way as well. I mean, there's probably lots of different ways you can sum it up, but traditionally programs or learning experiences have been about getting information. Mm-hmm. What we're about in Goddess in the Boardroom and Warriors in the Boardroom is giving people an experience, because learning in this new sort of world that we're in, this sort of information world that we're in, where everybody has access to all information all the time, they don't need more information. Mm-hmm. they need to have an experience of themselves and life in a different way in order to inspire what it is that they want to do with their life.
Yes, I agree. And I feel it's the words coming to me here is like, it's not about the information, it's embedding something and then embodying it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what would a typical, I mean, I know, but I'm curious about what you want to share. What would a typical overview of a day look like? We don't want to give all the magic away, but at the same time, just a little bit of a description of what could someone expect on the physical experience when you walk into the room. What does it look and feel like?
Well, a few things I think that make it quite different and quite powerful. When feminine energy, and hopefully we can talk about masculine and feminine energy a bit. I think we did last time, but there's probably a few more nuances that play into this that we could perhaps come to.
Absolutely.
But whenever we're working with feminine energy, which we are in Goddess in the Boardroom, where it's the feminine brings beauty. So typically you'd walk into a room and it would look beautiful.
Is that why you've asked me to join?
Yes, because you are incredibly beautiful. And that's why Andy's been twice to Warriors, because he's so beautiful too.
But some bald guy to take photos of, right?
Not at all.
Handsome man.
Very handsome. But typically a boardroom looks very sterile and there's chairs and a table, whereas in the Goddess in the Boardroom you'll come in and there'll be flowers and there'll be a warm, welcoming couch sort of vibe and cups of tea, and it's very different, and it can be quite confronting for women to come into that kind of space. They go, what the hell is this? What have I come into? And we're gonna be like plaiting each other's hair and
singing Kumbaya.
But it is just about reminding us to just drop into beauty. So that's sort of that should be the first thing that you notice. And then typically the first thing that we do is we share. And we share in a way that is quite different to what women experience in the workplace. We share with space and time. So when you're in a meeting, for example, as I well know, you're often fighting for your 5 seconds of getting your bits and pieces out, and you're defending yourself, and you're arguing. There's a whole raft of things going on. But in this context, in this environment, we invite women, all of us, to just share where we're at, what's happening, how we're feeling, what we're thinking, what's going on for us, and you have as much time and space as you need. And it's incredibly disconcerting, again, for women who are not used to that. It becomes a very beautiful practice after a while, but I think I'd love to hear what you have to say about it. But just having that space. No one's fixing anything. No one's telling you what to do. No one's jumping in. You can just be and say whatever you want to say. It's quite life-changing.
It is. I've got a visceral reaction in my body thinking about sitting in that circle for me in 2021 at Spices in the room there at Balfour in New Farm. And as you know, I like speaking. So speaking is not unusual for me. And I had a few thoughts when we'd go to share, okay, I'm going to talk about this, this and this. But because it was uninterrupted, because it was untimed and it wasn't scripted, then it blew my mind how many times I'd finish in my share and think, I didn't think I was going to talk about that. Like, where did that all come from? But because the energy of the room and the people smiling at you with so much compassion, so much love, it's just full of women appreciating and respecting each other. And so all of a sudden these words just keep tumbling out, and not in a way that in any way felt forced or that there was pressure to keep going. That's just what I felt in that moment, which I'm sure would surprise you, Andy, to know I just kept talking, would it? But but that it was so freeing. And then to reflect at the end, wow, I shared that, and then what you would learn from what you shared, and also then listening to the stories and the messages in other women's. One, it was a beautiful practice in listening and actually really being present and listening, which potentially a takeaway for me from the program is we don't actually do that as well as we think we might. when you are forced to sit back, force is a strong word, but you know, where the rules of the game are to sit back and just be and hold space for someone was an incredible learning in itself. So yeah, it was really quite magical. And for me, when I recap on that, that's why it's so difficult at times to explain to someone what are you going to get out of it, because it's not until you're in the environment and things start unfolding and unpacking that then you get your own personalised experience.
Yes, well, that's you've hit on a really good point, I think, of another difference of this program. As you said earlier, we do have learning outcomes and we have different things we want people to take away from it, like any other program. But I don't even know what each participant is going to get out of it, because everybody's experience is so different. And what we're doing is we're just igniting the power within, and it goes where it goes. And it's not for me to say, you now as a facilitator with me and me as a facilitator, just hold the space and the container for whatever magic each woman has inside them to emerge. So that's so beautiful and so rewarding to be a part of. And I think the magic of having other women holding space for you is, again, if you haven't experienced it, and Andy, you've probably had this same experience of being in groups with men, it's so different to learning anywhere else, with your partner, in different kind of work context or any other learning that you're doing. The actual empowerment you feel from being held in those spaces and seen, and also knowing that you're not alone. When I started talking to women about, I'm feeling really insecure and I don't know whether I'm up for these board roles I'm on, and they were telling me their stories about how I feel the same way, all of a sudden it's gotten easier, because I'm not unusual. I'm not on my own. I'm not weird, We're all experiencing it, and it's so comforting to hear that.
Yes. One of the questions or thoughts I have, and maybe it's from the other programs you've done in the past or the women that you coach, what about women who feel like they're not in the imposter syndrome or not experiencing low levels of confidence, for an example, where they go, no, I think I'm doing okay. What do you see that they would take away from the experience?
That's a great question. And I worked with a group in Melbourne a few years ago, and at least one of the participants was possibly the most confident woman I've ever met in my life. And I've also someone I've known. She was incredibly successful, confident, had no real issues in her life. I have some backstory, baggage and wounds and issues, and she had none, and trust me, I sort of dug for them, and there was nothing. Like, she was incredibly confident, incredibly powerful, and doing really well in life, had her own business. And she, from doing this program, has just gone up another 10 levels, completely reframed her own business, completely went in a different direction, has just taken off in ways that I don't think she would have imagined, because even though she was successful, she was a little bit stuck. So, this is for all women.
Yeah.
And it speaks to all women. And I've had women in the room that, on day one, they're like, what am I doing here? Because this is scary, confronting. And they've walked away from it, life changed completely, and they didn't know what they didn't know that they needed. And, one of the things I learned, I as you guys know, I was trained as a yoga teacher a few years ago. And one of the things that we learned in the yoga tradition was 33% of people will love what you do, 33% of people won't really care, and 33% of people will hate it. And that's kind of probably been true to my experience with this. There'd be definitely some people that have done it that went, yeah, it was okay, but wouldn't, bother again. And there's been people that go, that was really great, I got a lot out of it. And then there's people that go, that totally changed my life.
Yes.
And, that's anything in life is that way, I think.
Yeah, isn't it? And also our approach to it. I feel, in my experience, some of it is out of the comfort zone and out of the norm. So when we're in these masculine worlds in our workplaces where everything is outcome-based, agenda-based, time-based, to even hear that there's, loose arrangements in a day might feel really uncomfortable. Oh, well, is this going to be good for my time? Is my time well spent? And from a feminine perspective, we've got to realize actually falling back into that is going to be the best use of your time, and trusting that process and that energy. The other area for me is around the impact, and 2021, I keep saying, coming back to that's when I did the program. And even now in 2024, I'm actually still realizing some of the unlocks that occurred back then. So it's not so instant. And so those, oh yeah, it was pretty good. But then you might see 3, 6, 12 months plus later, the penny drops, and there's that moment. Andy, can I pop you on the spot? I don't know your thoughts here. And I might be putting myself in a vulnerable position asking you this, but from when I did the 6 months program. So what do you remember the impacts that it might have had on me as a wife, a mum, in the business? What do you recall?
I remember intuitively you were, I guess holistically, like more available. But I remember for you, it was thinking about how am I going to prepare the best for the day. And so if anything, then I think it started to create maybe some new habits and some new conversations you'd have with yourself. So on those goddess mornings in particular, I remember you were like, what would it look like if rather than like driving there and being stuck in traffic, and then being like, I have to get there by this time to then start the yoga, or get there by this time to then hold space and just all the natural kind of forceful things I think that the busyness of life takes up, that you were like, is there any chance you can drop me at the City Cat and I can just take the City Cat to New Farm, and then I can just kind of like walk up the hill to where Balfour is, and then just arrive and be just a little bit more present and out of the kind of the more busyness and routine of life. And I remember that was a big change for you, and I think that has carried on to other parts of your life too, where now you look to kind of create situations or craft moments of magic like that, where it's like, you kind of get home and I see you just sort of lying on the floor and trying to, just sort of reset from the day or whatever that may be, or that's just one of many examples. Or go for a mindful walk or something like that, where you're just totally unplugged. And I think a lot of that was an outcome of having that experience and holding space for others, but then also listening for yourself in your body for what you need right now. And I think that kind of helped drop in and reset.
Amazing. It's awesome.
Similarly, I think with the men's program, you talk about that kind of day one, a little bit of like nervous energy, if you like, when people turn up, and there's a little bit like, if you remember the men's program a couple of times, they're like, such and such said I need to be here, so I guess I'm here, or such and such sponsored me a place, so I guess I'm here. And, they're over time, I think then for most, it becomes super clear, everyone takes different levels, because the beautiful thing about the course is that in the program is that it meets you exactly where you're at, and wherever you are is totally good enough. It's good enough for that moment, and then it'll just kind of help. It'll help take you to a new level and a new moment for whatever that is, and arm you with tools in the future. It's unlike, conventional training, I think, where there's the X's and O's of leadership that we know. There's the do this, don't do this, or, do it this way but not this way, or frame it this way and not this way. It takes you out of that and takes you more probably back to primal roots in a way, where you just sort of are feeling it more in your body and trying to get out of your head. It's really get out of the head, get out of all the different things that we do, and then just feel it in the body, and then how do we access that? And so I feel like it's wonderful at providing those tools to access it at any moment. That you don't just have to wait for the stars to align. You don't have to wait for that, kind of class you might go to or whatever, that there are ways to access it every day, and this course absolutely takes you in that direction.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that, Andy. I love hearing the experience people have had with these programs. I mean, you would have heard us say this so many times, you're perfect exactly as you are. And the nuance with that is, and there's more,
Yeah.
and there's more to be experienced. There's more to be given. There's more love you can give. There's more leadership you can rise to. There's more you can create. There's more, but you're perfect as you are, and that's a really important, part of the program. And the other thing that I'll just touch upon that you mentioned, Shez, is the slow burn of it. We will often say we plant seeds that we may never, in a garden that we may never see grow, and I do think that's true. Even everybody will get something from it, and that may be just a seed that 10 years down the track for some people starts to awaken to something else. And if we can do that and create that environment, then that's good.
That's powerful.
That's good.
And one thing, Andy, I love listening to what you said there as well, when you said about coming out of the mind and into the body, and Rach, you spoke to the same thing around the information. One thing that can get thrown around, and maybe it's just common jargon, words like mindfulness or spiritual. And so when we talk about Goddess in the Boardroom, it's not those things. It's more around embodiment, and then also understanding the nervous system and the biological makeup of us as humans. Can you speak a little bit more to that, Rach?
Yeah, well, I think it can feel a little bit mysterious because we're dealing with this a lot with the subconscious mind. A lot of the programs you do, which are great, and we need all these things to be out there and happening. All the great work that you guys do is amazing, and we all need it. But that's sort of more working with the cognitive brain. We're trying to really get into the subconscious mind, which is where we store all the things that block us, all the limiting beliefs, all of the things that get in our way that we're not aware of, that we haven't got consciousness of. We're doing tools, we're learning tools, and we're doing practices that start to stimulate that, to clear that out. And once those things are seen and understood, they can be cleared away, and we can do whatever it is that we want to do and what we're here to do in our lives. And we're all here for such a short period of time, and we've all got something important to offer. And this is getting out of our own way is a big part of the story. So when we talk about, embodiment, what we mean is that we are getting the actual nervous system. When we have beliefs or patterns or habits that have been so ingrained in us, they become part of our actual physicality, of our body, the way that we walk, the way we talk, the way we look. You can see on people's faces how much stress they've got because it becomes part of that whole nervous system, body, mind system. So what we want to do is start to loosen that up, unravel that, so that we can start to embody in different ways. So I'll give you an example. Let's say we've had the same fight with our partner many times over. Does anyone, do either of you recognise that as a situation?
I've never heard such a loaded question, Rachel O'Brien.
Yes. In fact, just before we came on air.
Well, we tend to repeat things. That's the nature of us as humans. So it's almost like when the trigger starts to happen. So let's say you're about to get into an argument with your partner that you've had 10 times before. The trigger will happen and your body remembers, I've been here before, and it acts in exactly the same way as it did the last 100 times. Or the last 10 times. So what we want to do is we want to break that cycle. We want to understand some of what the triggering is, what the reaction is. We want to understand some of what's in the subconscious mind about that. But once we bring that to light, what we want to do is we want to change it in our actual bodies so that we don't have the same reaction the next time, and we have an opportunity to respond versus react because we've changed it in our physicality. And that's really what embodiment is. Mindfulness is important. You have to have the mindfulness because that brings the awareness.
Mm-hmm.
If you have awareness of your thinking or what's triggering you or what's happening in your body, that's the first step to the next piece, which is, well, now I can actually change my body. So it's really visceral. So we would say, for example, if when you're getting into that fight that you've had 100 times before, if you notice yourself crossing your legs, we will say, okay, you uncross your legs. And that's an example, very simple example of embodiment. You've changed the actual body programming to be in a different state and to react in a different way. And imagine that, like imagine the power of that in the workplace or at home.
Yeah,
or,
it'd be incredible, wouldn't it? Just think about so many meetings we've all been in where there's, a couple of people that run the meeting, maybe they've got the loudest voice in the room and they structure it that way, and you're in those meetings enough that it kind of builds up maybe over time, like a little bit of scar tissue, or maybe an idea gets shut down, you lose that confidence, and then you respond differently. You might respond differently in your body. You might hunch a little bit. You get shortness of breath when you start to speak out. And it's certainly, I think in my experience, the program really helps you identify what those are and then just acknowledge them. Acknowledge them that we're all on the journey together.
Yes.
And then, from there you might have one or two tools to kind of practically use in your everyday life, be it at home, having that same argument with your partner for the 1,000th time, or whether it's sort of in the boardroom at work, or catch up with your boss that maybe you don't always see the world the same way, and it just sort of holds your hand a little bit through those moments.
So life-changing.
Can I share an example that is real for me?
Yeah.
And not one of our personal, there's plenty of those of where that's been helpful.
On this podcast?
No. But what I would like to share is a thing that happened for me at work a lot, and the reaction that I got and got triggered by. And going through the Goddess has helped me understand, well, what is the meaning I was adding to it? What was the trigger point? And so now when it happens, and it still happens all the time, I just don't get the same reaction in my body. And even if I'm saying this, my body's kind of like a raggy doll kind of, you just don't feel anything in it. And it's the word fluffy. And people would always say, and still do, oh, as long as that's not too fluffy, or that workshop's not too fluffy, or the message we're giving is not too fluffy. And for a long time ago, I used to be described, and people would say to me, oh, you're a bit fluffy. And now it's very different, but I remember at the time this translation to me meant the way I am is not enough. It's not strong enough, it's not tough enough, it's not smart enough, it's not intellectual enough, it's not considered enough, it's just not enough. And through this fluffy discovery, and everyone knows it, like you hear it all the time, that term, but I instantly made that mean someone doesn't believe in me, maybe I won't get the job, maybe they won't hire me, it's just not enough. And now I honestly, like I'm kind of feeling a bit excited to be sharing this, because you think when I hear someone now, current day, say, oh, is that a bit fluffy? I instantly used to react and think it was based on me. And now I go, oh, okay, tell me what you mean by fluffy. Help me understand, what does fluffy mean to you? So what do you want to avoid? What do we want to have as far as the workshop for our clients as an example? Or that leader over there, they're a bit fluffy. Okay, what do you mean by that? And it's been incredible to be able to distance myself from this word and the meaning of that word to how I feel about myself, and go, oh, this isn't me saying I'm not enough. And when you track it back, I remember multiple experiences where I was I suppose in environments where I remember this one time we were talking about our HBDI thinking profiles, and my colour that I was the biggest colour preference in was red, which is empathy and connection and relationships. And I remember the leader at the time going, there's just too many reds in this team. Just remind me next time we need to hire someone, no more reds. And then red equaled fluffy, and fluffy meant not enough.
Yeah.
And it's amazing now. I look at it and actually it makes me smile and laugh and go, well, if there was more empathy, if there was more connection and more emotionally aware humans in the world, I think the world would be a better place. So I see Fluffy almost like a little badge of honor now.
Well, it's a superpower.
Yeah. And that to me is a real life example of how it made me then not show up with power and confidence and enoughness. And now I just smile and go, I know that's actually what I bring to the room, and I won't give someone else's perceived definition the airtime in my own head.
Such a brilliant example, and speaks so eloquently to the whole idea of embodiment, because the minute that you had awareness of what was happening for you and you could shift that in your actual structural body-mind system, you now are no longer used to shut you down.
It did.
And render you inactive in a way.
Yeah.
And now you can actually transcend that and become curious and use it to your advantage. And that's exactly what we're talking about. That's exactly what this program, every little piece of it is designed to do exactly that in different ways.
Yeah, the curiosity is key. I like that word, curious. And I think after, being the learner that I am, having done it twice, as we mentioned before, what I notice about myself now is it's kind of tricky to think back to how you used to be, I guess, because, in some way, I kind of believe that humans change year after year like inflation does. And by and large, we have different experiences which level us up every single year. And they just show up in different ways. And I think about my experience in the men's program, probably just down to I think it'd be fair to say is a bit of a masculine trait to want to fix things.
Yes.
And where I think some of the work that we've done together and that I've done through myself is to learn how to just hold space and kind of just let it wash over you, that you don't have to when you're in a charged conversation or you're having a conversation that really affects you, is that trying to kind of have those moments where you capture those kind of thoughts and those triggers and those moments that usually just sort of make you fly off the handle the other way, that you just kind of like, no, it's okay, I'm grounded right now, I'm kind of breathing through my body, I'm listening, I'm just sort of like letting it go through, and then also just acknowledging and totally owning that it's actually got nothing to do with me whatsoever. Right now, my job is just to be present, and that's it. I don't have to give an opinion. I don't have to provide a solution unless I'm asked for it. I just have to sit there and show a little bit of empathy and love, and I can do that just by listening. And certainly my experience of the course and the work that we've all done together through the Dam Council as well, through the group that Shannon runs, is absolutely that. It teaches men to do that, and let the feminine, I guess, and maybe a good opportunity to talk about the masculine and feminine energy, to drop into the flow state a little bit more and step out of the kind of the rigidity and the structured nature of what life looks like, I think.
Well, that ability just to be present and Andy, you and I have talked about this before, catching bullets in midair. Someone's shot a bullet at you, which once upon a time would have, wounded you and created this whole reaction. Now we learn tools to just, pluck that bullet straight out of the air and stay present. And that's what makes people the most powerful in the room. The person who's the most relaxed, the most calm, the most present, the most grounded is going to be the most powerful in any room that they're in. And, that's a big part of what you're speaking to. Well, that is what you're speaking to, and that's a big part of what we're teaching. And I'll answer. Can we talk about the masculine, feminine energy? And I'd love to enter this part of the discussion talking about the name of the program too.
Yeah, please.
Because it's a very polarizing name, I find, goddess in the boardroom. I mean, the juxtaposition of the two words they don't go together. It's chalk and cheese. So I get a lot of reactions about it, and people either really love it or they really react to it like that doesn't go together, that doesn't make any sense. And I've resisted over the years a lot of good counsel from people I really trust to change the name. Still today I was talking to a good friend of mine who had some advice from some marketing specialists that the name should be changed, and you know, maybe I'm stupid and stubborn and pig-headed that I don't want to, but it speaks very, to me at least, about the idea that it takes both masculine and feminine energy to have real success. And just because we are working in Goddess in the Boardroom on cultivating and remembering our feminine skills, we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and lose our masculine skills. They're both equally important, and every human has masculine and feminine energy traits. No matter what gender you are or how you identify yourself, that is just part of the human experience. So learning to call upon the different energies at different times is what gives us a lot of power. For women, and this was my experience, and Shez, you know, you may have had a different experience to me, but in the corporate world, I was very trained in my masculine energy, which is all about direction and focus and goals and you know, penetrating, moving forward, all those types of ideas and traits. Very important things. We need that. And the feminine energy, which is the, you know, the fluff, dare I say it, the it's not.
You can say it because it doesn't bother me anymore.
I mean, I've been in the same trigger boat with, you know, that on the fluffy side, but it's all of the community and the connection and the creativity and the space. And those two things, when they're working together, are potent energies that we can utilize as humans to do whatever we want. And so, you know, back to the name, the Goddess represents the feminine energy and the Boardroom represents the masculine energy. But the Boardroom also, to me, represents to women that they can do whatever they want to do in any room. And if they want to be in a boardroom, and we probably need to be really clear, we're not teaching people how to be directors of boards. You know, that is not what this is. It's symbolic, that terminology, that's the, at this stage in our human evolution, the most powerful room in any organisation. If you want to be there, great, you know, go for it. But if your idea of being at your best is raising children or starting your own business, whatever that is, you can do it and you can have it. So there's a lot in that title or in that name, I guess, and it's probably stupidity to have anything that needs more than 3 words to explain it as a title for a program. But I don't know.
It's interesting because when we made the agreement to, you know, work on this together for this year and beyond, I remember one of the first questions you asked me, Rach, is, do you think we changed the name? And I don't know if you recall my response, but I don't even think I took 2 breaths before I said absolutely not. And maybe I needed to give it more thought too, but I still passionately believe that in that name, because it is you're in the boardroom of your own life. You know, the expression about people having a seat at the table, it doesn't matter what the boardroom table being the metaphor, but it doesn't matter what table of the stage in life you're at, but are you owning that space?
Yep.
And the goddess of not having to come in and be tyrant and such heavy masculine energy all the time, to bring that flow and to bring that beauty and to bring that essence of femininity, that it's blessed and it's welcomed and actually it's necessary.
Yeah.
I love the name.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I do too.
I love it. And it is good to explain to people so there's not a misconception of, oh, do I need to be on a board? No, it's you running your own board. You're sitting at the head of your own table.
You're the CEO of your own life, or you're the chairman of your own, chairperson of your own life. Yeah.
It's the ultimate course or the ultimate program in self-leadership.
Yes.
I guess leading yourself first and just having those and establishing, and for some establishing from the ground up and some adding to the toolkit that you've already kind of started accessing for your life, and it gives you just some of the sharpest, best tools you'll ever get.
Yeah, and that's what I loved in the experience I had, and you've had similar at the Warriors in the Boardroom, and Rach, you would have had it in all of them. The group and the cohort, you've got such a range from people who have done limited personal development and self-leadership work to people who have done multiple programs, different conferences, lots of their own inner work. And no matter where people start, there's an unlock from every position.
Absolutely.
And that to me is really magical and really unique because, you know, if you look at traditional learning environments where if you're talking about how to do a skill, it's so black and white in a way, and so someone might already have so much experience. Yes, we can recap, but there's only so much. People really need to be met at the level they're in, whereas this program, it meets you at the level you're at, no matter what. There's that unlock.
Yeah.
And so often, as you mentioned, the subconscious, I believe that it's people trusting the journey, trusting the process, because you won't know what your unlock is until you're in and amongst it, and potentially even sometime later.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it's almost the call out is for someone who wants more for their life, but, you know, as you said about you're perfect the way you are, but there's still more, wants to discover that unlock, or an obvious, okay, I've got this block here, this is an area I know I need to work on. Either or, it's a perfect scenario.
Absolutely. And even that is absolutely correct. And even career-wise, people are at such different ends of the spectrum too. Some people between careers don't know what they want to do next, or between jobs, and some people have been mums, for example, and have lost their confidence to go back into the workplace. Some want to go further in their career. So you're right, no matter where you're at, either at a personal development level or a career level, this program will meet you. And that's
the
pretty
lessons
special.
you can share from each person in the group, regardless of role and rank and age and stage of life. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's quite different. I think I'd say to people though, everyone gets mad with me if I say things like this, but whatever. You can edit it out. We'll if you don't want. But if you really, really hate change, you shouldn't do this.
Yeah, I think that's valid. I had a conversation with someone recently around Goddess, and the feedback I had was, I'm not ready for that for myself yet.
Great. Perfect.
And that was my response too. I said, I love that you said that. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
Because if you're ready to give yourself a little bit of a stir up, if you like, or a little bit of that, okay, what's next in that, I don't really know, but I'm just going to trust it. But if you're not there for it, don't be.
Yeah,
yet.
Don't do it.
Yet.
Yeah, maybe yet or maybe ever.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine how you've done it twice. I've done it about 10 times, every single time I go through it, because I'm just on the journey too. I'm on the path the same as everybody else, and I've learned some tools, and I have a great toolkit that I'm very grateful for. But I'm going through the whole thing every single time as well. And
as you keep warning me, you're like, Shez, this is going to kick your ass. It's going to kick your ass. It'll kick our ass more than anyone. Oh, great.
Yeah, it does. And
no, but that's what we're here for.
That's what we're here for. And if you're paying attention and you've got your eyes and your ears and your heart open, you're going to get so much rich, deep learning, as I think Andy said that before. And, we do say it's not for the faint-hearted. There's things that you meet about yourself that you don't like and that, that are uncomfortable. But as Carl Jung says, one of my favourite quotes from Carl Jung, until you make the unconscious conscious, it'll rule your life and you'll call it fate. And that is just, to me, so true, and better out than in. Yeah, because it's doing its thing, if you're unaware of it, but you may as well be aware of it and have a chance at doing something about it.
That is so, so true.
One part we haven't touched on, maybe, and I don't know whether this was on the agenda or not, or maybe just my kind of logistics brain going off, but maybe it would be important to mention how long is the course? What does the structure of it look like?
Yeah, absolutely. It goes over 6 months, but 9 sessions. And I think we talked about for most, I'm saying for most for the mum of a premature baby, but for most people, birthing, the process of birthing is 9 months. Rach, anything to add on that?
No, 9 days. So we work through
9 days. Now I've stuffed it up.
We're 6 months, 9 days in 6 months.
Yes,
I think
yes.
it is. We're in our deep feminine now. It's like details.
You
and
are, yeah,
structure.
sorry.
Ask us about that.
Sorry,
Just
I'm
go
taking
to the
you.
website www.goddessintheboardroom.com.au and read the information.
Beautiful.
We
Couldn't
should
have said it better.
say
No, we should say.
we should say, because I think this is worth saying, without all the other detail, that we are kicking it off this year. This is something we've never done before in Goddess in the Boardroom. We've done it in Warriors, but we're starting with a 2-day retreat at Spice's Hidden Vale, and I'm so excited for that because that is just an immersion into the most beautiful nature in this sort of 5-star luxury resort, and that's going to be juicy. Well, people hate that word juicy. And
You love it. That's your word. You go with juicy.
It's going to be yummy.
I was putting some posts on our Goddess in the Boardroom Instagram and LinkedIn the other day, and I was just pulling all the photos from Spice's Hidden Vale, and even just looking at the photos to choose, I just felt so relaxed and so happy. I love that place. Yeah. And just to be in nature, to be a short drive away but feel like you're an absolute world away, it's going to be a magical way to start.
It's going to be a magical way to start. We'll go in and get in fast and deep.
Beautiful. For the logistics and really a lot more detail, it is all on the website. Yeah. There's also some brochures and some links. So if you are curious, on the website that we just mentioned, and we'll put it in the show notes, there's also some downloadable flyers that we can send. And if there's inquire button on the website, if you need anything, or DM us or message us, all the logistics, we can talk it all through in regards to payments and investments as well, what's possible there too. So all of it's there.
And I think people should feel free if anyone's got the light that's being burning or being lit from listening to this or reading the website, and you're not sure and you want to talk to either of us or any of us, I think that's a good way to go too. We'll happily share more detail and more context.
Absolutely. I think
anyone
that's really
who wants
important.
It,
yeah, 100%.
Well, can I ask you a question? Yeah. What are you looking forward to?
Me personally?
Experiencing it again,
yes.
Facilitating. What are you personally looking forward to coming back? She's getting in the 2 club, Andy.
Yes. I'm also going to be in the double club.
She's about to make it. Well, she hasn't graduated yet.
Yeah, not there yet. I maybe it's pending on this answer. No, the things I'm most looking for, there's 2. One is the connections with new people. I feel like it sounds a little cliche, but the experience that we had with the group from us, they were friendships that whilst I might not speak and hear from those people on a regular cadence, the quality and the depth of those relationships are like nothing else. So I'm really looking forward to the connections and also seeing how knowing a few of the women who are already joining us, like knowing them individually, seeing them connect as well. So the connection and the group itself, the dynamics, I'm really excited for. Yep. I'm shuffling in my seat because I'm also a bit nervous as I look you in the eye of what I also am learning and the unknown of what will come out for me. So it's probably walking in for me knowing there's a couple of limiting beliefs or a couple of blocks that I've got that I'd like to work on, or some more goals that I just haven't seen how I can get there yet in my way of thinking and being. And also what I don't know, what I'm not expecting. That's the part that I'm most excited and slightly terrified, but that's the part that I'm most excited for. What about you?
Oh, I mean, can I copy you? Because that was awesome. I don't think I could say it better, but the community, the women coming together. I think I have this favourite quote, which is, when women come together in circle, the world heals. There's something so magical about a group of women coming together, and I think I said it at the start, supporting and loving one another and holding a mirror up at the same time is so powerful and beautiful. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm just going to learn a whole pile of new things about myself and who I am and who I want to be, and I'm just so excited for that. And it's just such a privilege to be able to do it.
Yeah, I feel extremely privileged to be on the journey with you, learning with you, from the women in the room. Yeah, it's going to be incredible.
And me from you too. I'm excited to so excited to work with you, because we've known each other for a long time, worked together for a long time, but never directly together. So this is kind of
I'm removing you from my pedestal now. You're just my friend.
Well, I love this.
Well, I mean, when
she said no to me the other day, which was a very big celebration.
How dare she?
I was like pumping the air. Yes.
Well, there's one of those unlocks. Literally, Rachel asked me a question about some specifics for our Ignite conference linked to Goddess, and I just didn't feel right about something. I said, oh, no, it's not sitting well with me. And I don't know, honestly, if I've ever done that. And with you, Rach, as my friend, but in the past you've had very much a seniority over me in inverted commas, but in our workplace, absolutely, you're my boss's 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 boss. I think you're the boss of everyone in Flight Centre back in the day. So yeah, that was a huge adjustment for me in the most beautiful way, to go, no, that's you've got to honour your own feelings and thoughts. And yeah, another unlock, I think, that's come from all of this work.
All of this work. Yeah. I love this. Yeah. Unlock from the hierarchy.
Yeah.
Yes. That's a whole session.
Yeah, that's a whole session that some people might go, what? Where are they going? Okay, they've lost me, but that's okay.
Yeah. Context is everything. Shouldn't talk out of context. Yeah.
Yes. But just us as women coming into environments, or as humans, am I above, am I below, or I'm at par? It's a natural human way of assessing a situation, isn't it? So for us, though, to actually go, no, I belong at this table and I am enough.
Yeah, certainly are. I'm absolutely enough.
What are you excited for us, Andy, and the women on the program?
I'm excited for them to know the logistics.
See, the masculine. What would we do without it? I mean, honestly, we just couldn't survive without the masculine energy trying to give us some structure and organisation. Andy, I just bow to you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I feel like it's getting in the way of the flow, but I'm like, wouldn't it be really great for people to know that it's 4 back-to-back day retreats and then one other, so it's 9 full days and then
only
4 back-to-back. Yeah,
where we're staying, and then the rest are full day workshops at Spices Balfour in New Farm. But you're right, in 2-day blocks. So for some women, they may choose to arrange for themselves to stay there actually, and stay in the bubble, in the container, if you like, and then others might just go home and then come back. But yes, you're right. So there are the logistics. Thank you.
Yeah.
And they get a couple of coaching sessions with you guys too, don't they?
Oh, you are on the logistics. Yes. So one-on-one coaching with Rach and one with myself. Yes.
Oh, yeah. And that's an important part of it, because we can dive into really individually what's happening for each person, and I think that'll be really useful.
It is, and even though the group itself is only small anyway, so it's 12 maximum, but you're right. So then you go even deeper on the individual. So you're going to have quite an intimate experience being a small group.
Yeah.
Kicking off in October, Andy, is that correct? Have we got those dates?
2 days in October, 2 days in November, 1 day in December, 2 days in Feb, and 2 days in March.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Whoa, you studied. Well done. Somewhere I think
don't ask me the exact dates
between December and January there as well, just to keep people through those school holidays where a lot of people may take leave, just to keep us all on track.
And probably one other thing that is worth saying too is that we really aim to have everyone walk away with a very, very rich toolkit of things that they can take outside of this program. The container lasts for 6 months, 9 sessions. That is 6 months, isn't it? October to March.
Yeah.
Just in case. Even though the container's that finite amount of time, will continue beyond that, because that you will have so many tools that you can incorporate into your life that you guys know well and truly all about.
Absolutely. One thing that I find really interesting when we talk about so many days that people are investing their own time, and I'd love your take on this from the Warriors in the Boardroom, the men's version that you work on with your husband Shannon, and then the Women with the Goddess. What's the difference with the way that men versus women willingly say, because we've all got a lot on our plates, invest in themselves financially and with the time?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think my experience with that is that women tend to be more, they lower down on their list of priorities compared to men. So taking time and money for themselves is sometimes a really big thing to get your head around, and that's understandable. But women tend to put a lot of things above them. But what I would say to that, to anyone who I'm talking to who's on the fence, is to think of it like here's a bit of my old travel lingo coming back in, and when you're on the plane and there's the safety demo and it's fit your own oxygen mask first. It's actually false economy, not prioritising yourself for time or for money, because you become so depleted. And it is a thing we see a lot with particularly women, get themselves very depleted because they're always giving. And they're not necessarily giving the best of themselves. So prioritise yourself, give the oxygen to yourself first, and then just see what you'll actually be able to do after that. That's the real economy. You'll be able to achieve so much more, give so much more, but from a place of healthier place rather than just constantly giving.
Yes. Yeah, I really appreciate those words. And when we reflect on the unlocks and the takeaways for me in 2021 to now, Andy and I were actually just discussing this recently, and I was saying one thing I realise in myself now is that I don't wrestle with, should I invest in myself? And I mean in time, money, prioritization. Like, it was something a few years, I don't know if I should go away for that night, and I don't know if I should take that time and leave you and Chloe, and the guilt. And it's still not about just a frivolous, I'll just run off and do these things, but it's still considered, okay, this is what it's going to be for me, this is the impact it's going to have for the family, let's make sure it all works. But knowing that I've just got to keep re-energizing myself, whether it was going to the ATD conference in New Orleans a few months ago, doing programs like this, paying and investing for coaches personally, it's so important, because absolutely what you said. If I've got nothing to give, then I've got nothing to give. So how do I keep topping myself up so that I've got something to give? And that's been one of the greatest gifts for me from the time the Goddess, to recognise that balance in myself.
It's important.
Critical.
Very critical. And I see, you see a lot of women, I coach a lot of women, and we see a lot of exhaustion, depletion, crisis, to use a very big,
it's a
heavy word, but I do see a lot of women in crisis but stuck. Stuck in, still can't do anything for myself. And we will unstuck you.
Yes. I think that in itself is almost the crisis that we need to change, those being the norms, because they are the people, in conjunction with their partners potentially, but they're the people who are raising the next generation of humans. They're the people who are leading the next generation in our workplaces as well. And so if you're stuck, if you're in crisis, imagine what you're omitting to everyone else. Like, when we really think about that, so maybe it's a lesson for myself at times too, of course, when we really think about that, is that the role modelling you want to be giving to the people most important in your life? I don't think so.
No. And this has become almost a cliche, talked about this idea that women wear busy as a badge of honour. And I think that's something also we need to change.
Yeah.
It's not heroic to be so busy that you're running yourself in 100 feet into the ground, not doing anybody any good with that. But it sort of seems to feel good. And also sometimes, as you guys will appreciate too, the stillness and the stopping can be very uncomfortable because you have to be with yourself, and that takes some getting used to. And often the busyness and the things we do is to avoid that.
Yes.
So, I don't want to be with my own thoughts. I don't want to be with my own feelings. So I'll just keep doing and scrolling and numbing, working, all the things so that I can avoid that. But it will catch up with you. The chickens will come home to roost at some point. And, in my case, my chickens came home to roost in a very serious way with an illness. And that's not to say that would happen to anybody else or that was the reason why. But it was, it was something really serious that made me stop and be with myself. And I just don't wish that upon anyone.
Oh, I'm ready for October now. I'm ready. I'm ready to drop out and drop in.
Yeah, I'm ready too. I'm so excited to do it. I'm so ready.
Well, thank you, Rach, one, for coming on and being, second time podcast guest on Lead with Courage.
And do I get like steak knives, or do I get a badge, or
a badge of honour that says busy on it? Is there
like busy at Luminate podcast?
Yeah, sorry, unavailable. Not sure for how long, how many days, or where it is, because we don't do logistics around here, but busy.
Well, someone does, just not you and not me and not Cherie and I, but thank God for Andy.
Absolutely. More ways than one.
More ways than one.
Rach, thank you for being here, and most importantly, thank you for the work that you do, the opportunity you give us to be part of that work, and really cannot wait for Goddess in the Boardroom 24 to kick off. But thank you for the goodness that you bring to this world, and we love you. Thank you.
Thank you. Love you guys too.
Thanks, Rach.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on the Lead with Courage podcast. We illuminate leadership, and it's our mission to inspire and grow the leaders of today to create a better tomorrow. We hope and trust that this episode has given you some insights and joy to empower you to live your biggest, best life. If you did enjoy the episode, we'd be so grateful for you to rate and share wherever you listen to this podcast. And until next time, go and lead with courage. Luminate Leadership is not a licensed mental health service or a substitute for professional mental health advice, treatment, or assessment. Any conversation in this podcast is general in nature, and if you're struggling, please see a healthcare professional or call Lifeline on 131114.